Hello, Frobisher. How goes it? Oh, it definitely goes steamingly well, Tarquil. Thanks for the ask. Just got the big cheese to squat out a few extra clams for the boys and me. We've rinsed the competition on the 402 account, and Barley Rifkin just got the big promotion. So you can imagine we're feeling particularly tip-top about ourselves. To top it all off, and not to pour any salt on the wounds, old donkey, but I just bought myself a bicyclette. Are you talking about a bike, Frobisher, old salmon? Oh, that's a righty-ho, you old todge. A damn shiny 40-speed bicyclette in high-performance mauve, of course, complete with saddle wipes, interchangeable Allen wrenches, and a basket for all my fat cash. Sounds ripping, Frobe, you ancient syphilitic goat. So what's that for, then? Oh, you're not properly anyone anymore, Tarquil, if you don't have a bike. It's all in all the latest trades, and the top fashion bods swear by them. I heard someone with a jaunty hat on the other day talking about them in the elevator. They're so in and new right now. They basically allow you, as I understand it, to rule any road you're on. But that's weird, Frobe, old camel. You'd think riding a bike in the city would be hazardous at best. Well, you'd think that, Tarquil, you would think that, but all indications are that you're wronger than a sunburnt weatherman in a sou'wester who thought he was in for a shower. Bikes give you the license to ignore traffic signals, ignore other human beings using the crossings, ride on the road, ride on the pavement, take your bike on an underground train and take up way more space than is reasonable, and what's more, you're literally saving the entire planet and get to feel oh so very smug while doing it. That all sounds marvellous, Frobisher. Also, I have heard of one other thing you can do if your smugness level starts to fall below blisteringly smug and awful. And what's that, Frobisher? Become a vegan. Hey, enough of all this. You two are not meant to be in the studio. Clear out. You're making it smell of chin grease and inner despair. I have an announcement to read. I'm sorry about that, Radio Flange Goblet loyal listeners. You turn your back for 5 minutes and your sound booth becomes filled with insufferable assholes. Maintenance has assured me they will be waxed, deloused and flushed according to the asshole disposal manual issued by a local town council. There's apparently a giant, brightly coloured novelty cannon that we can fire them out of as well. Anyway, now it's time for the after-movie diner. Warning, this episode will feature the violent and untimely flatulence of Prince Archibald Greimenheimer, played, as always, by the ever-dripping Roy Hudd.
You're listening to the After Movie Diner, and now, here's your host, Jon Cross.
Hello, and you join us here in Black Iron Burger between 28th and 29th Street on 7th Ave.
Fashion Avenue.
Top of Chelsea, bottom of Midtown. Nobody really knows what neighbourhood it is. If we were on the east side, it would be Gramercy.
They should call it Noche.
Noche,
because they're always like making things like north or whatever. And it's north of Chelsea.
That's
Noche.
awful. That's
like
awful.
It.
It's pretentious drivel.
South of Midtown.
I
like Dumbo.
Dumbo.
Yeah,
but that's in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know, but I like that they took down underneath Manhattan Bridge to be Dumbo.
Right.
I just think that's neat.
All right.
I'm allowed to think that's neat.
You're one of those people who's like, oh, I'm in Soho. Now I'm in NoHo. Now I'm in Boho. Now I'm an idiot.
No. I very specifically said, I like Dumbo, I think that's quite neat. And that is a specific class of person, that's me.
Right.
And there's other people, apparently, who wander around and go, I'm in Soho, I'm in O, which I think is the mental people that walk around New York who say out loud where they are.
Where they are. Right.
But that's not me.
I'm having the Masterpiece Burger.
And we haven't ordered yet, have we?
No. But do they come to our table?
I'm assuming they come to our table, I don't know. I think so.
Well, I'm having the Masterpiece Burger, and speaking of masterpieces... Seamless transition between food and things.
Why things?
Because...
Why am I things?
Hang on a second. Talking about masterpieces...
Oh.
We have sat opposite me one of creation's own masterpieces.
Wow, that is.
In that he's a bit weird, spindly, but full of...
and unlikely to be appreciated in his own lifetime.
And unlikely to be appreciated in his own lifetime. However, is deeply wonderful, a deeply funny chap, the returning champion himself, our official co-host, Mr. Jim Wallace.
Hello, am I official? Do I get an official co-hosting?
No.
Do I get a parking space?
No.
How are you?
Hi,
Good,
really
thank
good.
you.
How are you?
Pretty good. We all set?
Yeah, can I get the little Italy? Can I go well done? And a Coke.
I'll have the masterpiece, please.
Do you like yours, Vince?
Medium well. And I'll also have a Coke.
You guys want to do any fries?
Yeah, can we get one side of small fries, please? And water for both of us as well, please. Would be great. Thank you. So, yes, Jim Wallace, official co-host.
Yes, you said it, you can't take it back now.
Can't take it back. I've been saying it for months. Sleazy, yeah, and it's the last of our Sleazy Spader Springtime
It is.
episodes.
Oh, it's Sleazy Spader Springtime. Welcome to the show. Oh, it's a Sleazy Spader Springtime. I want you all to know that if you please, there's James-Spader Sleaz and it's got nowhere else to go. So loosen all your blouses, give your nose a damn good blow. 'Cause now we're coming clean, oh yeah. It's 2017, Sleazy Spader Springtime Show. Oh yeah, it is 2017's Sleazy Spader Springtime Show.
Can I just say, the one thing I will say about this movie is, I do believe that we have finally seen a movie where he is like, he's a sleazebag, and it's quite a good movie. It's only quite a good movie that utilises his sleazebagginess well.
Right,
It's still not a classic.
We were conflicted on last week's film, so I would disagree with that statement. However, yes, he is a pretty sleazy
He's
person.
properly sleazy in this one.
Certainly in the first half, but first,
Sorry.
the second prong, well, third if you count my burger,
Right.
but the third masterpiece prong is what film are we covering this week, sir?
Oh, I see. I'm sorry, I ruined it.
It's all right.
I forgot what it's called. Storyville.
Storyville.
We're covering Storyville.
It is named after the sex club.
No, it's named after the red light district of New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, the red light district of New Orleans, up until like a certain point in time, in like the early part of the 20th century, was called Storyville. Like Soho or
Right.
I don't know,
But
whatever.
isn't the like one of the sex clubs run by that like old blues singer dude?
Okay.
The guy talk like this,
Yeah.
you can't understand a bloody word he's saying.
Like, isn't that place called
It
Storyville
might be,
in the film?
maybe, but the reason it's
No, I get it.
yeah,
I mean, it's still named after.
it's also probably named after the book. I think it was.
No, I get it. But it's still named after the sleaziest part of the town.
Yes. I mean,
That's
it's
what I was
like
going
I mean, the red light district was like, if it didn't last, then presumably it got shut down. And if it got shut down in New Orleans, it must have been really sleazy.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it must have been like properly.
Like too sleazy to live.
Yeah.
It's basically about how bad that red light district was.
Right. Which is not the same that we can say for Mr. Spader,
No.
because he has been just the right level of sleaze.
Yeah, he's
to
been
live.
exactly sleazy enough
Yeah.
to live as Mr. Spader.
So, we do have questions from. What just happened there?
He tried to pick up a jar of water and failed to do so.
Oh, and it fell everywhere?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really know how you pick up a jar of water and don't, because it's not like it like he picked it up and he dropped it.
Right.
He just picked it up wrong and all the water went absolutely everywhere. I don't even know how you do.
No, I don't even know how you pick up a glass of water, a jar of water, wrong.
No.
Anyway, let's not digress. Do you want to do? We've got questions from the Lunnster.
Oh, okay.
Questions from the Lunnster. The Lunnster's asking questions again. That's like the jingle.
No, it's quite. I think you should edge more into low budget jingles. You know what I mean? I think it's more in keeping with the feel of the podcast.
Sorry, when did we have like?
Well,
upmarket
you cut in, and you've obviously sat there for a bit, at least more than a few seconds, and gone, I wonder what the jingle will be, and then you think about it for a bit, and then you
Right.
go, that, compared to, I'll just make it up on the spot while I'm sitting in the burger joint, I feel like it's, high budget.
I quite like questions from the Lunnster. The Lunnster's asking questions again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's cumbersome.
Yeah.
It's awful, but it fits perfectly well.
Yeah.
With the whole thing.
Yeah.
Kind of what you're saying. So do you want to do the questions first or later?
What would be more appropriate?
Well, I think as we're already into Storyville, let's end with the question.
Okay, all right.
Because I feel like let's give Andy, who has been, let's be fair, the only flag waver, torch bearer, and stroke bomber.
The only survivor of the first Sleazy Spader Springtime's enthusiasm from year one. Only one man is left.
Yeah.
When we returned, we expected a similar level of enthusiasm because apparently we've learned nothing from the years of doing podcasts.
Right.
But enthusiasm is
Fleeting at best.
it's a mythical beast.
It
what
is.
it is.
It's kind of what I like to call a waft.
Yeah.
It is. You have an enthusiasm waft, almost like a fart in a sauna. You know it must be someone in there, but it evaporates so quickly that
Yeah, in theory it should exist, right? I mean,
Right.
people listen.
Right.
People even say to me every now and
Hundreds
then,
of people
"Oh, I
listen.
listen to the podcast."
hundreds of people listen.
But
Hundreds upon hundreds of people listen to us.
I mean, it's still a miracle.
It is.
No,
Right?
why?
Since January, thousands have listened to us.
Well, no, I mean the same hundreds many times. Right. It's not like, I mean, I would be more worried if people only listened once and then never listened again, because that might be a more accurate reflection of how I feel like it goes down.
No, but the accumulative effect makes me at least feel better at night when I'm not crying.
Is that... So when did you stop crying? That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's really good news.
Thank you.
That's a step in the right
Step in the right direction when I wasn't like lying in bed at night going, why the fuck do I do this podcast again? Anyhow, Storyville, Sleazy Spader. Do you want to give us your page?
Should I do the thing?
Jim's going to do a sloppy rundown.
My rundown is always excellent, but it's always interrupted by you going, well, wait, you've forgotten that bit.
Jim's going to do a sloppy rundown. Then he's going to complain about how his rundowns are really...
You never let me do the rundown. You always go, no, wait a minute, you've missed a really important part, and then you mention a really irrelevant part.
Anyhow, I call that summon the devil or something.
Yeah, why would I guess it stops people slipping.
I guess so.
Okay, anyway.
Sorry, someone just poured salt all over the wet patch.
Why is he pouring salt all over the floor?
Trying to summon the devil.
Yeah, you went straight for devil worship.
I did.
I went for so people don't slip.
Yeah, I think it's far...
One of us watches too many weird 70s horror films.
Yeah, starring...
And I watch a fair few weird...
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Have you seen Race for the Devil?
No.
Watch it. Warren Oates and Peter Fonda in a Winnebago fighting devil worshippers. It's amazing.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good. Okay.
Anyway, carry on.
Right, Storyville. So, Storyville. James Spader is hotshot lawyer, son of influential New Orleans family, and he is running for Congress, but he is many, many points behind, standard Republican bag of shit. Then, it's quite complicated, isn't it? Okay, so at the same time, Well, okay, no, right. So there's that. That's who he is. That's Spader's character. One night, he is essentially filmed in a blackmail plot, having it away with some bird, even though he's married.
Right. Oh, well, he's unhappily married.
He's unhappily married, right.
He's married for show.
Right.
She's essentially the Jackie O lookalike token wife that is meant to convince the voters that he's not a huge hoary sleazebag when he clearly is a huge hoary sleazebag.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
There is a whole like young JFK thing, but we'll get into that anyway.
Yeah, well, okay, I think it's probably more accurate to say he hasn't divorced her yet because of that, but I don't think he necessarily married her because of that. But anyway, that's already. So anyway, James Spader running for Congress, right? At the same time he's running for Congress, he's also asking questions about an old land deal, land deal that his family was involved in, that is basically the source of his family's fortune.
And may have caused the death of his father.
Right.
Which hangs over the whole thing.
Yes. So, James Spader, influential lawyer, running for Congress, also asking questions about the land deal that made his family, caught up in a blackmail sex plot, that when he goes back to the blackmail sex plot layer to pick up the tape, he gets into a fight with the blackmailer, and then he wakes up and the blackmailer is dead and the bird is gone, so he legs it, and the rest of the movie is essentially James Spader fighting on two fronts. On the one front, he's fighting to find out what's going on with this land deal because he has a suspicion it's got something to do with why he was being blackmailed and woke up next to a dead person. And on the other hand, he's also fighting to win. In fact, three fronts. He's fighting to find out about the land deal, he's fighting to win the election, and he's also going back into court to defend the girl who he had sex with in the blackmail plot, who's been accused of the murder of the blackmail.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
Using movie logic. Where after 2 years you can just waltz about in a beige suit and some sunglasses and go, I think I'll just try this case.
I'll be a lawyer now.
Boom, just be a lawyer.
So, so it is quite convoluted, but that I think is a pretty good summary.
It is a pretty good summary, and I have to say, as summaries go, it was pretty strong.
It was okay.
And as Jim summaries go, it was flabbergastingly good.
Well, that's because you shut up for most of it while I was talking.
Yeah, I did shut up.
That's because there's so many complicated bits in it that if you were to interject one, you'd have to interject all, and then we'd be here all day.
We'd be here all fucking day.
But my general overall impression...
Made by the co-creator of Twin Peaks, Jon Cross.
Right. My general impression is, and this is how kind of I feel about it, is it wasn't very good.
Right.
But as, swampy, tricksy legal dramas set in New Orleans go, it was one of those.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It was it absolutely did that thing that it was trying to do.
It lives murkily between the absolute maddening shash that is the Nick Cage, Judge Reinhold softcore thriller Zanderley and the considerably better and more ensemble cast-ish Midnight in the Garden of Good of Evil. It kind of lives somewhere in between the two.
I mean, it's certainly, when I was watching this going, well, I've seen this before. What I liked about this, though, the reason I thought it was good,
Hear an audible gasp from the audience that you liked something.
I like plenty of things.
All I've had to put up with is how much you don't like things.
That's only because we're watching shit movies.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, this was a shit movie, but Spader was properly casted. That's what I was. That's what I was happy about. For once, in this Sleazy Spader Springtime, he was actually cast correctly because he was the leading man. He was supposed to be young and dashing and promising. But, and this is what I liked about it, he was quite clearly supposed to be a sleaze monster.
Right.
Every time he looked at Joanne Whalley-Kilmer, he looked like he was imagining doing just the world's most disgusting things to her.
Yeah.
And they clearly went, yes, please keep doing that.
Yeah.
Can you make your eyelids go a little bit lower when you're picturing her doing, frankly, God knows what?
Problem.
Little Lily's here. Thank you very much.
And the masterpiece is over here, and we're sharing the photo.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know how I feel about the green snot sauce.
What is in the green snot sauce?
Oh, it's gorgonzola.
Oh, well, that's probably why then. Dude, there's enough fries here for us both to have.
Cool, thanks, man.
I thought so, like a small fries for $4, that's bound to have enough in it. So, we'll talk about the Joanne Whalley-Kilmer element in a minute, because it was a little like ropey in the sense that actually she doesn't really have.
No, she's got nothing to do. What's weird about it is,
and it's really just so that the film at the very end can have a quasi-happy ending.
yeah, and even then he manages to he pours sleaze all over the bar.
Oh, the ending is just. You don't even think that there's a relationship in the future. You just think, well, that's my election win, my election victory nookie sorted out. Like she waited for me in the bar. Jolly good.
What's weird though, right? And I'd be interested on your take on this, right? You'd assume that the guy who co-created Twin Peaks with David Lynch, right, could write, but there's not much evidence of that in the movie.
What do you mean?
Well, it's not very well written, is it? I mean, as you point out, it's a bit of a mess. There's not many good crackling lines or anything like that. I don't know. I would assume the guy who co-created Twin Peaks, I don't know, it would have been a little, I don't know, zingier, a little more twisty. I think, but it felt like a very just standard adaptation.
Yeah, it was.
It didn't have a lot to it, did it?
No, it was more the. If there's any Twin Peaksiness in it, it's in the general mood, a little bit in the soundtrack, and a little bit in the kind of side and or back characters in the background are all just a little bit left of centre, you know what I mean? They're not...
Yeah, that's true. Well, I suppose that's probably because I've been watching Twin Peaks again, and one of the strengths of it actually is how well each of the individual characters are drawn, so that when you come back to them, even for just a few minutes, you know who they are and what their story is. That's clearly a gift.
Yeah, everything's great, thank you.
And there were a couple of Twin Peaksy people in there. There was Piper Laurie and who's the guy that played the cop?
Michael Parks.
Michael Parks, yeah.
Yeah, and if anything, Piper Laurie and the visuals around her, and the fact that she's clearly either suffering the trauma of the father, or is in some sort of early stage dementia, because she is the most Twin Peaksy character, because she basically sits surrounded by either candles or gaudy baubles or something, spouting, gibberish that may or may not tie into this ultimately inconsequential lot of nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons I think it is such an inconsequential lot of nonsense is, I don't know about you, right, but as soon as I'm the kindly southern uncle who's been taking care of you since you were a child, and you don't forget how much this family did for you. Oh, so you're the murderer then?
Yeah.
So I mean, 5 minutes in, you see these robots walk through and you go, oh, you'd be the murderer then. So, all this is for his own good, blah, 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 right? It's it doesn't even attempt to make it anything other than what sooner or later. I mean, that was what's so weird about the whole thing is a twisty, turny, swampy mystery where it turns out that the person closest to you, but all the big reveals in it, including spoiler alert, because fuck it.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoilers alert.
Spoiler alert. He's his dad at the end, which again, big surprise. But there's no big moment for that.
No.
It's a bit where Spader finds out, and then Robot says, "But I'm your father." and that's it. It was so weirdly underplayed. Do you know what I mean? Like, the purpose of a murder mystery is presumably to watch it and not know who the murderer is.
Right.
Not spend the whole movie going, when are they going to get around to figuring out its right parts?
Also, the other thing that I found was like, I don't know whether it was an attempt at a red herring or just like nobody cared. But at the beginning, when you see the flashback to the dad's murder,
Oh, yeah.
you see a very specific colour
Oh, yeah.
set of fishing waders or fishing outfit or whatever with like straps on the side. And then Robart, about 45 minutes into the film, with that fat guy who sat by the dock weeping, like that whole scene that I didn't fucking understand. There were so many scenes in this film that I'm like, could someone either A, speak up, B, speak English, or C, explain what the fuck is going on? But that bit where Robart turns up to start fishing, he's wearing the outfit, and I'm like, oh, well, wait, he was the guy who shot his dad then, like, what?
It was very weird. You're right. But it was just, you knew. And there was a lot of that. It's obvious that, and the whole, like, oh, well, it's, I don't know, there was so much information, and none of it was distracting from the fact that you knew exactly what had happened.
Right.
You know?
And there were some things...
Presumably the whole point of throwing a lot of information at the screen in a movie is that you're supposed to think, oh, God, I wonder how all this ties together. And then at the end of the movie, it all ties together, and you go, oh, instead of, well, here's the essential truth,
Right.
and now here's a bunch of wibbly, waffly nonsense to distract you, to try and distract you from the fact that you already know what happened.
Well, the other thing
Maybe
was...
it's like a brave new filmmaking experiment.
is that in a 2 hour, and this is the other kind of Twin Peaksy thing, I guess, but in the 2 hour running time, there's a whole bunch of scenes that could have just been jettisoned.
Yes.
Yet, the establishing of Spader's character before he wanders down the dark alleyways of sex clubs and starts having it away with Asian Aikido instructors in a fucking hot tub is completely, like, apart from the fact that he's running for Congress and is a little bit moody, we don't know anything about him.
No, we don't.
And the next thing we know, he's accepting numbers and addresses from people we think are tending to his cocktail party. And then immediately she's like, meet me at this club, and he's like, oh, all right, that seems normal.
Yeah, I was going to a sex club.
Now, I suppose it's meant to, with hindsight, you're meant to be like, oh, Spader is the sort of, the sort of fallible character led by his trousers who would follow, like I said, a possible, honey trap or whatever they call it.
It couldn't have been more obvious a honey trap either. Go,
Right.
oh, why don't we get that beautiful waitress over here to give you a drink? All right. I think we can just, go, I can go and get a drink, or we can just pick our fingers. We don't have to say something weird like that.
So,
Yeah, that is very strange.
do you want to know the other interesting tie-in with this movie?
Well, then.
Is that Spader in real life was friends with JFK's son, who is just John F. Kennedy Jr., right?
Right, yeah.
And they were big pals. And I've got a feeling that certainly just in some of the costuming of his trophy wife, and in the fact that the real sleazy thing about him is that he can't keep his bits in his pants, I think that there is some sort of nod to JFK there. Just because Frost loves to sprinkle Americana throughout his stuff, I'm going to assume that.
Yeah, maybe. I think
maybe Spader was interested in the role because of his friendship with JFK.
Well, I would think this is post Twin Peaks, right?
Only just, yeah.
So it might have been developed at the same time.
He had been writing the script since '87.
Okay. Then I would question what else he was doing. Conducting a study into the, orbital patterns of Mars. Something complicated.
He was probably refurnishing the guest house.
Here's the thing, right? The two things I enjoyed about this movie were
Yeah, because you were raving about it to me.
It was a swampy... No, because I thought there was a lot to talk about. But it was a swampy, nonsense, lawyer, courtroom, drama thing. That was with no logic to it at all. Like, the fact that he's essentially... There was a whole weird thing bypassed in this movie that I wanted to talk to you about. Because I couldn't understand what had happened or why they'd done it. He wakes up next to the dead bloke, right?
Right.
He's been seen fighting with the dead bloke. I mean, he did fight the dead bloke before he died. And okay, we assume that he didn't murder the dead bloke because he's the lead. But he's certainly like suspect number one.
Right.
Instead, the daughter gets arrested.
Yeah.
And Spader wanders in, defends her in the court. And at no point, while Spader is defending her in the court, is the fact that him being there and basically being the prime suspect has any bearing on it. And he may as well not have been there. He may as well not be the lawyer. Like, it's this huge thing going on there.
But he mentions, did you not investigate the blood on the window, which was his blood because he broke the window?
Yeah.
And the guy was like, no. So the whole point is that there was no other investigation. They just picked up the woman.
Oh, I see.
But to be fair...
It's like some kind of parrot, right?
No, but to be fair, the biggest problem with the ending, or the film in general, is that it's all...
Well, it is just one guy, that's it.
It's all involved with each other. So... Also, the weirdest thing that does... No, the biggest thing that makes absolutely no fucking sense in this movie whatsoever is presumably Robards wants him to win the race, right?
Right.
For Congress.
Right.
Now, I understand because the decisions that Spader makes and because the things that then transpire, how he wins it.
Right.
But why did Robards, who wants him to win the Congress, blackmail him?
I'm assuming because of the land deal, right? To get him to stop asking questions.
So instead he spends all his time asking, like, who's blackmailing? And then has the worry of a blackmail. Like, how is having the worry of a blackmail over your head helping you, like, win an election? Now, it helps him win an election because during the convoluted court case, which is essentially the second act of this movie, we find out that his opponent is a big scumbag and he's hired this other guy and blah, 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 blah. And then we find out that his opponent is actually tied to the oil land deal. The biggest problem with the film is that everything is tied to everything. So essentially, none of it matters.
And also, it all comes crumbling down because a guy who's like, oh, what we need is someone who was there that night who can say what really happened. And they find a guy who was there that night who can say what really happened. And they bring that guy into the courtroom and he sits there and says, I was there that night and this is what really happened. The end. There was no stakes, there was no mystery solving, there was literally nothing. It was like the guy like descending from the clouds, going, I will solve your movie for you.
Right.
And then he sang his little I will solve your movie for you song.
And the solving of the movie was that blind Willie Johnson, or whatever his name was, who's been in a whole bunch of movies. I think he's also the same guy at the beginning of Roadhouse, who's like, oh, don't you have a good journey, blah, at the beginning of Roadhouse. But anyway, that guy finds a cross-dressing guy who said that he'd had some photographs taken of him by that. And it's almost like the biggest reveal in the movie, more so than who murdered him, who blackmailed him, or whatever, because ultimately, all that is irrelevant, because whatever. The biggest reveal in the movie is that chick you saw at the beginning having her photograph taken and covering up her boobs was actually a guy. And I think that Mark Frost relishes in that more than he relishes in any other reveal.
It was. I wonder if that's why him and Lynch work well together, is that they're not interested in like a conventional unfolding of story. They like the weird little things about it. And that's why they're interested. That makes sense to me now. Because I thought, oh, well, Lynch does the weird, and then he needs to be partnered with somebody who like knows how to write a story.
Again,
but actually, they're both weird.
Again, there's no need for the fact that he is a crossdresser to be the reveal.
No. But it's also like...
But the way that it's done is really weird also, because you find out that he's... Like, you meet him... Well, you see him earlier in the movie, you think he's a woman. You don't really pay him any mind.
Right.
Then you meet him, and you're like, all right, this is clearly a homosexual gentleman who is going to, like, reveal what's going on, right? Then he walks into court in a dress, and you're like, all right, this is a cross-dressing homosexual gentleman, fine. He sits down in the courtroom and starts to give his testimony, and then there's this like weird flashback to the night that it all happened, and you see the woman or the person who thought was a woman earlier with her arms across her chest as if she's covering up her boobs, and then when now we know it's he, reveals, like, puts his arms down, the music goes as if it's like revealing some great thing, but you're like, well, we already know because we've just seen that he was a guy, so like you've even blown the reveal, and the reveal you really seem to think is what we all care about. Yeah. Unless it was Spader whispering into Frost here and go, make the woman a cross-dresser, and maybe we make like the reveal of his nipples something exciting. I don't know.
I wonder if Spader knows the whole time, like we do, that his uncle is the bad one, because then everything he does makes more sense.
Right.
Because if he knows his uncle's the bad one, and his uncle's blackmailing him, then he knows his uncle's never going to reveal the tape, his uncle will never put him there, and all he has to do is, like, by defending the women, he can find out what's really going on. But that's not really intimating that, right? I mean,
but also, that's the other thing, is that while he's blackmailed, he's never actually blackmailed. Like, someone leaves the tape for him, but no one's ever asked for any money or anything like that.
Yeah, you're right.
Like
nobody says anything to him about anything.
And then there's this really weird scene, which I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Where, like, seemingly they seem to think that we were invested in the will they, won't they, Joanne Whalley-Kilmer Spader love fest from the beginning, when really all it is Spader is your typical sleaze man who looks at a female DA as like prime sport for his, torture film. And they used to live together, so they have like a past. So now there's some like, banter back and forth about like, well, would you mind if I bent you over my desk and knobbed you? And then she's like, well, I'd rather you didn't. And he's like, banter. That's essentially what it is, right? But apparently we're meant to be really invested in this, because later there's a scene where she comes round to his house, and their lusty chemistry gets just way too much to handle. It really doesn't. Where on the couch they insist on like making out in a rather sort of grotesque way. In the process of which she nudges on, because she rolls over onto the remote control, nudging the TV on, which is playing the video of him having sex with the Asian girl in the hot tub. And he gets all like panicked, like, oh no, what if she sees this? I presume if Whalley-Kilmer saw this, she'd be like, oh, another sex tape of yourself that you're watching. Like, I don't imagine she would be surprised at all.
Oh, you're right. You'd not be surprised.
And also, how is it that there's no sound? There's just no sound. Like, the TV doesn't come on. She doesn't notice. He happens to notice because his eyes are facing that way. And he fumbles around, grabs the remote and turns it off. And then she decides to leave anyway. But, like, are we meant to be like, oh no, if Whalley-Kilmer sees that he's watching a sex tape of himself, that's it for this relationship. However, will we cope with it? Is that what we're really meant to be thinking? Am I meant to be sat there on the edge of my seat going, God, I hope Whalley-Kilmer, who's as boring as cardboard, and James-Spader get together in the end, because I can't handle this chemistry.
I couldn't handle Whalley-Kilmer's fringe, is what I could handle. And then what should you do with that fringe? Well, because it makes it... She's an attractive lady, but they gave her a fringe and I'm not normally like a critic of like hairstyles in movies or anything, but presumably wanted to be like a good-looking chick. But they gave her a fringe that makes her face look massive. Did you notice? It's like she's got a massive face because they like stole half of it away with this mad fringe. So it's like it makes her look like a weird turtle lady.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And about 20 years older than she was.
Yeah, like a weird, sexy middle-aged turtle is not really what you want. It's not going to sell a lot of seats.
Listen, it might be what Spader wanted. Spader might be like, can we make her look like a crazy middle-aged sex turtle, please? Is that possible?
I haven't done it with one of those, and I really would like to. So, look, it's nonsense I'm starting to do this. Shall I take the other...
I think that's the other thing, though, is I think that Frost is obsessed with the two women in the film that he's, drawn to, his now ex-wife and Whalley-Kilmer, both having Jackie O fringes.
Oh, maybe.
I think that's what Frost is obsessed with.
Oh, fair enough.
Because at one point, Whalley-Kilmer goes, "Oh, she looks just like me," and you're like, "No, she doesn't." But all right, if you want to go with that, if that's meant to be something, I think that's the point. Is that throughout the movie, there's meant to be this unspoken, burning chemistry between Whalley-Kilmer and him.
But the trouble is, Spader wants to shag everything on moves.
Right.
And
but I think, right. I think the other issue is...
That would be a good question for your Val Kilmer interview is, was your wife Joanne actually made out of cardboard?
Actually made out of loft insulation and tissue.
And how did she feel about her fringe arrangement
in the film
Storyville?
I don't know if that was after... No, that was after they got together, because they met on Willow, right?
Yeah, because she was Joanne Whalley-Kilmer in this movie.
In this movie, so she was still together with
Val.
With Val, soon to be after movie diner guest Val Kilmer. So I don't know. She was dull. But I think when I start to put it together, though, right? She comments that she looks like his current wife, right? There's lots of talk about how they used to live together. Right. He's afraid that she might find out about the sex tape, not because it's going to bring down his political career, but because it's him having sex with someone else. Right. And in the end, it's his lascivious look at her that is meant to tie it all up together and send us off.
You're right. The whole thing is
I think the whole thing is meant to be about him and Whalley-Kilmer. When actually I was watching the film going, what is this Whalley-Kilmer subplot? And why do I care?
What I would know is I would like to know because they were friends, right? Frost and Lynch, and I would love to know what Lynch said to him. We went, "So did you see the movie? What did you think?" Because I bet Lynch changed the subject pretty quickly. Yeah. Because forget all the writing and all the rest of it. And maybe there was I like the bit with the woman who was supposed to be a man, and because it was some of the worst, most generic direction I've ever seen in my life.
I thought some of the film looked pretty good.
He lived in a Flake advert. Did you notice James Spader lived in the middle of a Flake advert? He had white billowy curtains and no furniture and a single bathtub or whatever. If it had been Spader oral sexing a Flake after the movie, I would not have been surprised.
So for people who don't understand, Flake is a Cadbury's chocolate bar and or confection from the UK.
There used to be a synonym for knobs. It used to be women with big red lips sitting in bathtubs in empty rooms with white billowing curtains, looking like they were giving a disembodied blowjob to a chocolate bar.
Yeah, and that was the commercial for it. No, the thing that I did notice though, in his purposely sparsely decorated New Orleans apartment.
Yeah.
And I think it's only purposely sparsely decorated because he probably had the dungeon equipment out for cleaning that month. It's probably normally filled with despicable and depraved sex dungeon stuff. But I also noticed something else, which I don't know if it was a Spader Sleaz thing or whether it was a Mark Frost, ooh, this is weird thing. But in his lounge furniture, he had a single solitary velveteen green chair that he never sat in. It didn't match anything else. But it was right there. And we saw him on the couch and we saw him do all that. But what we didn't see was this I wanted that green chair to be something. Like, I wanted that to be the thing that, I don't know, Spader dusts his balls off after a particularly heavy night or something on the
Does
chair.
his balls get dusty?
Yeah. Oh, rather.
So, but you know what I mean, like the white billowing curtains and
Yeah, he lived in a... No, but what I mean by how it looked was that, yeah, there was some cliched stuff in it, but there was definitely... I'm going to get a refill. Do you want a refill?
No, I'm alright.
Can I get one more? Yeah, you get one refill, right? Yeah. Cool.
I'm okay, thanks.
There was definitely, in some of the sequences, and I'm thinking like the alleyway outside the knob parlour and the Aikido studio.
Can I come just very quickly? I'm very disappointed that Spader didn't go into the sex bar. Because this is the third film in a row where Spader was going to walk into a sex
He
bar.
walked into it at the beginning.
No, he kind of walked in the outside corridor and met her, and then they left. They didn't actually go through like a New Orleans 90s sex bar.
No, but to be
kind of
fair,
disappointing.
to be fair, right underneath where she,
Thank you very much.
where she did Aikido and lured people to her hot tub, in that building, that was right above a guy who did like sub-dom sex
That's good.
photography.
Yeah.
A guy, by the way, who looked like a mad ginger biker
Yes.
was doing mad sub-dom sex fantasy photography. Also, one big error in the film in terms of its sleaziness.
Okay.
Or maybe not an error. Maybe for Spader, it is a decidedly sickening plus. I don't know. But we very sort of sadly and tragically find out during the court case that a Vietnamese lady who lures him to the hot tub has been being forced to do this by her father since she was 14 years of age. And the sequence of...
She was only 14 years
She
old.
was only 14. And that, to me, detracts from what was meant to be like the erotic centerpiece of the film, which was his hot tub writhing. Because suddenly I have in my head, she's been forced to prostitute herself by a mad Vietnamese guy.
I think there was like
Since
so,
she was 14.
when she came,
Now,
when she
I
came
don't
to
know
see
whether-
him, right? When she
Yeah.
came to see him after the night, and she was all weeping, she'd been beat up, and she told him it was all a thing. He has zero. He's so
Has
angry
no-
and
yeah.
no compassion for her at all. And, well, fair enough. He's been caught, bonking her.
No, he's just about to call an ambulance. He's having compassion. He's about to, and then she says, "Oh, by the way, we videotaped you," and he hangs up the phone. He's like, "Well, fuck your injuries then." Hang on, what?
No, it just goes from like, oh, I better be concerned, right?
Right.
Humans are concerned, and to, my whatever, I'm in danger, so I'll drop it. The scene where she's like on the floor, like reaching up, he's like totally cold. It was the thing. It was a weird, swampy southern, courtroom drama that in nearly every way was utterly generic, except that the mystery made no sense and wasn't interesting at all or mysterious. And everybody in the film behaved in weird ways,
Right.
and it didn't add up to anything. I don't,
No, none of it added up to anything. So, there was also...
He was good though.
Also, okay, this is another question, right?
Okay.
She's meant to lure him to her Aikido studio
We just talk about how weird it is.
No,
So
that's
they
where
have
I'm
their
going.
sex
That's
liaison,
where I'm going.
and it starts off with a
That's
key.
where I'm going. So she takes him to her Aikido / hot tub sex room, right?
Right.
With the sole purpose of knobbing him on camera. That's the entire purpose of this thing.
Right.
Instead, she starts off with some playful, yet also horrendously violent Aikido, which involves him kind of rather brutally smacking her
He
fist
punches
first
her in the face. Yeah, he does. That's right.
Right.
I've forgotten that.
Which is all laughed off, which is very fucked up.
You're right. That was
Right.
super weird.
And then the next day, he's limping. Well, until he gets a massage. Until he goes to the sleaziest massage therapy place ever, where it's essentially just him on a gurney being worked on by a sweaty lady with grey billowing curtains everywhere. But But there's a whole series of like, why are you limping questions the next morning, which is simply brought about by the fact that he was beaten up the night before. But the fact that he was beaten up the night before is completely antithetical to her goal of getting him in the hot tub to have sex with. Like, I mean, I can only assume it was put in there to be like, well, this guy is so deviant that after punching a woman in the face and being kicked repeatedly in the balls, all he wants to do is jump in the hot tub.
Run for Congress.
And run for Congress.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing I want to talk about was like the running for Congress thing.
Okay.
Like, the thing the movie lacks more than anything is any interest in the audience caring about any of these strands coming together. Like, we don't really want him to... Like, if he didn't win at the end of the movie, would you have cared?
No, that's a good point. I would not.
But I think the overriding thing is it's meant to be like, you know, you don't get where Spader ends up without a few, like, mad skeletons in the closet. The trouble with that sort of satirical statement is that all the skeletons in his closet, right, were set up by the one person who wants him to get into Congress. That's where it makes no sense.
Yeah, that's true. And also, yeah, he's got to have like a whole bunch of weird sex skeletons in his closet.
The After Movie Diner with Jon Cross will return right after this.
We'll do it live. F*** it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Hi, I'm Jay Mayo.
And I'm Marie.
Shut up.
I'm Marie.
Shut up.
I'm Marie Forster.
And we are co-hosts of Hold the Mayo podcast.
Hold the mayo.
Hold the mayo.
All right, give me ham on 5, hold the mail.
We're two local comedians, and here on Hold the Mayo, we talk about all the different things that are going on in our daily lives.
Or in your case, your pathetic dating life.
Or in your case, your obsession with pizza.
Or in your case, your Gatham for Statham.
Yeah? Well, at least I'm not obsessed with Guy Fieri.
At least I'm a gang leader.
No, you're not. You're just always trying to overthrow invisible gangs.
No, I'm cool in the gang.
No, you're... Oh, my God, the puns are the worst.
Mayonnaise, really? That stuff is for sandwiches.
Listen, you guys can find us all across the internet. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and everywhere else that podcast can be found. You can also find us all across social media. We're on Twitter at Hold the Mayo Pod, Instagram at Hold the Mayo Podcast, and of course, we have a Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Hold the Mayo Podcast.
Don't forget, you can also find Jay crying on his couch every single night.
Thank you so much.
F***ing thing sucks.
And just end it with a fart.
You're listening to the sweet sounds of the After Movie Diner. Support us at patreon.com/After Movie Diner. Or I'll punch you in the teats. Rate and review us on iTunes, Earthling.
Just the way that every time he looks at Whalley-Kilmer is it's easily the sleaziest thing I've ever seen ever seen him do. But the sleaziest look I think I've seen Spader give anyone is the look he gives Whalley-Kilmer, like in the courtroom, outside the courtroom when he tells that he's going to be defending or something, or maybe the first time they meet, I forget, but she walks away and he does this like half-lidded like sleaze sneeze at her, and it's like, it honestly made me like go ugh. Like, it was so horrible.
But it would have worked.
Don't get me wrong, it was brilliant.
Right.
But it was like, I mean, I felt dirty watching him do it.
Let me ask you a question. Did it add to the sleazy look that she wasn't dressed particularly sexy? So in other words, as she walked away...
Yes, she did. She looked like his secretary.
She looked like an old lady from behind. Did that add to the sleaze, or would it have been better had she been dressed?
No, I think it added to the sleaze because it absolutely added to the sleaze, and I'll tell you why. Because if she'd been looking like really sexy, then when he gives like the sexy look, you'd go, oh yeah, well she's looking pretty sexy. And you equate those two things together. Right. But because she's not looking sexy, but he gives her like the sleaze sneeze, right? You're forced to think, so what's he thinking about?
Right.
You know what I mean? What is Spader thinking about right now when he gives that look? And that is not a place anybody should go.
No.
Nobody should ever ask themselves, what is James Spader thinking?
And when you think that he was good friends with John F. Kennedy Jr., and had had dinner.
Thank you for not doing a Sean Connery impression.
At Jackie O's had sat and had dinner at Jackie O's house. Like, when you watch the film, you have to imagine Spader sleazing over his best friend's his best friend's mum, who also happens to be the ex-first lady of the nation. Like, that adds a whole level of...
No, that's true. That's pretty sleazy, even for Spades.
Even for Spades.
But here's the thing that I liked about it, right? Because the more we talk about it, the more I realise that it was like... I mean, actually, I suppose the weirdness of it makes more sense to me now, because I think thinking about Mark Frost as just as weird as Lynch, and not just like, oh, I'm a pretty straight ahead writer who Lynch cottoned onto and we made Twin Peaks together, but he did all the weird stuff and I did all the things that made sense. Actually, no, I'm just as weird and I'm, just as interested in odd things and not really about narrative or plot anyway.
Right.
Then all the things about it that, like, the murder mystery makes no sense and isn't involving and who cares, but there's loads of, there's loads of it about it that made us think and latch onto what was going on here and why was it,
right.
And you got things out of it that I didn't get, and I got things out of it that you didn't get, so there's depth to it. It's just, like, it would almost work better as a TV show, because in a movie you need it to have, like, a pace. Like, a TV show can just sit there for like 45 minutes and not go anywhere.
Right.
Because it,
and weirdly enough,
the pace of it is over a whole season.
Weirdly enough,
a movie needs
had this been the pilot and the first episode of a Spader in Congress constantly being harangued by his past TV show, I would have liked it a lot more. I think the problem is that it's first of all, as a swampy thriller, it's about half an hour too long, which plays into it feels like it was written like a hour and a half pilot with then the first 30 to 40 minutes of because he'd have to become a member of Congress.
But it's based on a book, so it has to be like a complete story. But presumably,
but it's written more like a pilot mixed with. You could re-edit this as the pilot and the first episode of an upcoming TV series.
Yeah, well, you'd probably lose the last half hour of it. You'd leave the mystery of who gave him the tape.
No. I would have him become a member of Congress at the end of the pilot. That would be the end of the pilot. But some of the stuff that happened in the middle would be in weird, flat, Twin Peaksian, flashbacks and stuff in the second.
But what I'm saying is, I think what you do is you get rid of the explanations, and you'd have him in Congress without knowing who sent the tape.
Right,
what I mean? Without finding out the bloke's his father and all that.
Right.
And have Robards as, the man with something on him or whatever. And then you have Robards in his story, Spader. It's not as if that the land deal doesn't need to be solved, then it needs to that can all bubble up. So I'd agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
But it's just that what I liked about it is that he was cast properly and he was good in the role.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that that in that JFK way, the fact that he was a sleaze monster was sort of by the by, because he was trying to do the right thing.
And he does to redeem him in the end. He does do the right thing, and he's like, I am going to reopen the investigation into the land deal and get all those people their money. Because essentially the implication about the land deal is that his Uncle Robards has, and he should have just been called Uncle Robards, but his Uncle Robards has essentially dicked a bunch of African Americans out of their
you see, that's
money and land and all the rest of it. But then he was also paying off that blind guy, so I don't really understand it.
You know what? I think what bothers me as well is that Spader didn't have to sacrifice anything at all. He didn't. I mean, he did just go home with some random bird.
There were no consequences to everything.
And he was like, "We'll make reparations to the family." Yeah, but you'll still be a congressman living in a massive house and be really wealthy and influential. So opening up the land deal means nothing to you.
Well, no, it means that his family will lose 80% of everything.
Right, but he's still going to be a rich influential. Yeah. So he's fine.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And if he were to lose anything, his mum and his dad, who he doesn't care about.
And if anything, he's securing votes for years to come.
Yeah, it's he doesn't. All he does.
Oh no, it's one of the most empty films that I've seen in a long time. And what's really weird is, in a postscript to this movie, Kim and I were driving back from Rhode Island the other day, and we were talking about Jeff Bridges and younger Jeff Bridges movies. and decided to watch Against All Odds and Jagged Edge the last couple of nights. And there are a couple of empty fucking thrillers as well. Like, really...
Well, Jagged Edge is Esther House, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like... I mean, yeah, by the time Basic Instinct came around, no matter what you think about that film, he had perfected it. Like, every 5 minutes in Basic Instinct, you're watching something, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, okay, that's just... It's insanely fun, stupid, sleazy, mad, improbable, but it's a Hollywood movie, and it bowls along. Whether you like it or not. Whereas Jagged Edge is just... It's just empty shash. And then at the end, doesn't even bother to have a twist. Like, at the end, you're just like, oh, well, he was guilty? Like, that's the twist? Like...
Yeah.
Like, it could have been anything. I wanted her to pull the mask off at the end of Jagged Edge, and it had been anybody other than Bridges. Because it being Bridges just makes the whole film irrelevant. Anyway.
No, I agree. I hate...
Whereas, with Basic Instinct, it's much better that they figure out it's Gene Triplehorn, but then, like, later on, when her and Douglas are having yet another ridiculous sex scene, oh, but it could also have been her. Like, the end of Basic Instinct doesn't make any fucking sense, but at least it has a concept of, oh, here's a twist on top of the twist on top of the twist. Like, it at least just fucking ladles on twist and goes, sends you out into the night going, well, that was fucking nonsense, but good fun, you know what I mean? And I think what Storyville, Jagged Edge, and Against All Odds kind of forgets to have in any grand scheme of things is fun. And when it does, like when Storyville tries to have fun, which is halfway through, towards the end of the court case, Michael Parks, who is woefully underused considering what a great actor he is, but Michael Parks, who says about 3 words in the whole fucking thing, who's a corrupt cop, who is basically doing the bidding of the guy who's running against Spader, whose name I forget right now.
But he's not, he's working for Rover.
No, but he's also working for
right,
Rover.
okay, yeah.
He starts to get called out by the transvestite guy in the witness stand, and out of nowhere and utterly improbably goes like, "You little bastard," you know, commie, fat, whatever, makes a lot of like horrible slurs, and then pulls out a gun and just starts like shooting in the middle of a courtroom. In this massive, dramatic, slow-mo, blood flying everywhere, Spader gets hit, his co-counsel gets hit. Oh, his co-counsel who's like a local, well-respected guy who can help him like win votes and stuff. So like, all these people get shot in this like massive bloodbath, and then the movie just goes right, like again, no consequence. The next time we see them, they're all still alive, they've got a few bandages on, and then they're wondering, but like, it doesn't, the whole movie should have either been like that, so that there was like fun, weird moments all the time, or like, I think Frost thinks that having a slightly dwarf woman with enormous knockers having a photograph taken in like some sub-dom sex photo shot run by a mad ginger biker is somehow like a moment, but
that's it. And this is what puzzles me, because it's based on a book, and he's obviously a writer. But what bugs me most about the entire movie is every single... First of all, 2 things happen that should never happen in any script, right? Any decent script. One, your lead character should not be the same person he was at the beginning of the film. Right. And Spader is exactly the same. He's learned nothing, he's sacrificed nothing, he's gained nothing.
He's gained Whalley-Kilmer back.
Well, no, but not even at that point, like maybe he's gained her back. Right. We don't know. Maybe. But he's still the same, but she's come back because, I don't know, she's gotten tired or, I don't know, whatever. Or, I don't know, he's made a blackmail. Who knows, frankly. I'll take the fringe out of your eyes if you come back with me. Whatever it is.
By fringe, Jim means bangs.
Oh, bangs, sorry.
In the American parlance.
Of our times. And the other thing is, every single plan that James Spader has works like a fucking charm. Yeah. And they're not even very good plans. It's like, well, I'll try this, and it works. Maybe I'll try this, and it works. Yeah. And then the movie ends. You go, what? You're supposed to... try something and it doesn't come off, so you have to improvise. Or, I don't know, but he never improvises. He just has half-baked plans that all go. In fact, if anything, more to think about it, he's just an overprivileged, horny white bloke who's being elected to Congress because he's not entirely evil. That's essentially
the movie.
What's going on with the movie.
So let's wrap that up. Let's pick very quickly, because we've really got to get back to work. But let's pick something really quickly that he took from this film. I think he took definitely that room-sized photograph of himself from the campaign headquarters.
Yes, he definitely took
So
that.
in the campaign headquarters, he literally has an entire wall plastered with his face. And it's not even just his face, it's his face looking pensive.
I think
that's got to be at least one wall of his sex dungeon. Or the Sleaze-a-torium.
I think he took the hot tub.
No, he took the water from the hot tub. He didn't take the whole hot tub.
He
just took the water from the hot tub. And he has it in jars, and he gives it to orphans for Christmas.
No, that's too weird. I like that he took the water from the hot tub.
He took the water from the hot tub.
Maybe every time he bonks somebody, he has a shower afterwards, but using that water.
Using that
So
water.
it's the same sex water.
He uses.
No, he takes a shower before, so he's like reabsorbing all of his old sex energy. He's like showering in his own sex water.
Yeah, that's grotesque. That's grotesque.
Okay, there we go.
That's gruesome. That's utterly.
But
gruesome.
I think you're right. I think he's got this huge photo of himself.
Yeah.
For the campaign.
Yeah.
Okay. What about questions? What are we going to do? Questions?
Oh, and it's another film in which he wears sunglasses that probably live in his swimming pool full of sunglasses. That was a particularly swishy move, was when he confronts Whalley-Kilmer in her office and is all like, I'm going to be trying the case, blah, blah, beige suit, blah. And she's like, but you can't do that. And he's like, I can. And he puts his sunglasses on and sachets out of the office.
You're right, that was top
one of
Spader
the
action.
most sleazy but also weirdly camp actions I've ever seen. He might as well have just walked straight out of a fucking Banana Republic ad. Anyway, let's finish up today's episode with the Lunnster's questions.
Questions from the Lunnster. Andy Lunn is asking questions again. Oh, questions from the Lunnster. Andy Lunn is asking questions again. Oh, yeah.
I think the first go round was better.
So much better. Okay, so let's make this a quick fire round.
Okay.
Andy says, looking forward to the final chapter of the 2017 Sleazy Spader Springtime. It's been great fun. I know there hasn't been buckets of sleaze this time around, but I think the key...
No, we'll get the check.
Yeah, we'll get the check.
Thank you.
He says, I know there hasn't been buckets of sleaze this time around, but I think the key is not to look too hard for it. Instead, just to relax and enjoy Spader's performances, regardless of
Thank you very much.
if the movies are any good at all. Spader will bring you just what you need. I think the best example of this was John's analogy about Spader's innocently drinking an espresso, but oozing enough sleaze that he may as well have been sucking off a horse. Anyhow, here are a few more questions for you. Which sleazy movie role do you most wish that Spader had played? I mean, I think Michael Douglas in Basic Instinct. Get rid of Douglas and put Spader in that.
That's a good call. I was thinking Eric Stoltz in Pulp Fiction. You know, when he's eating the cereal when they're out in his dressing gown?
Yeah.
That's quite kind of sleazy and weird.
Yeah, but Stoltz does nail that, though.
He does. It's the only thing he's ever been any good at.
It's the only thing he's ever
I know, that's the thing. So that's why I always want to take it away from him, because it's like, Stoltz fucks everything up.
You've Stoltzed it. You know what you've done there? You've fucking Stoltzed it again.
But no, I like that. That's good.
Oh, hang on.
We've got
Sorry.
one more, so we're going to split it.
50-50, please.
Thank you. I'm trying to think what would be a good...
What is one... again, Atherton is a wonderful sleaze, but Spader as any... Basically, Spader could replace any of William Atherton's sleazy roles, whether it's Ghostbusters or Die Hard, even though Atherton does a fantastic job.
No, I don't think you can get rid of Atherton in either of those.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, let's think of a movie where it's so bland it could
How about
use Spader.
If there was, and I would never get rid of him ever, but an alternate universe where Spader is Gruber would be, you know, such a shame about the suit. Like, I think he would have played it in a very disgusting thing.
Oh, James Spader as Hans Gruber.
Yeah, it's an alternate universe, not instead of.
Okay, so
I like Michael Douglas.
in which of Spader's movies has his hair most amused you? It's got to be Mannequin, because he has it all slicked over. The New Kids, just because it's bleached blonde.
Sleazy, yeah.
And then wasn't it like in Supernova, wasn't it like dyed a dirty brown?
But when's it his most like floppy?
Oh,
Sleazy,
Pretty in Pink.
Yeah, so Pretty in Pink.
Okay, if a Spader-themed holiday was a thing, what do you expect the itinerary could consist of?
A Spader-themed holiday?
Yeah. You'd have to buy each other like dildos.
I think
and like the one who bought the biggest would get a cake full of sex juice.
I think you'd have to wake up. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, your holiday would be, you would be voluntarily knocked out, right?
Voluntarily knocked out.
Unbeknownst to you. Like, you know, chloroform or whatever.
Yeah.
And your holiday would begin waking up
Yeah.
in like a cabin on a cruise ship, like surrounded by passed out hookers and drugs and empty bottles of scotch. And you'd have to wonder how you got there.
Right.
And you have to spend the whole holiday wondering,
Yeah.
how did I get to the Sleazy-a-torium on the cruise ship? And your holiday's not actually it's supposed to be in like the city you just left.
Right.
So the whole Spader-themed holiday is you have to make a continuing series of sex-based bargains in order to get back to the city you were supposed to be visiting in the first place.
Right.
That's my Spader holiday.
That's his Spader holiday. I quite like my giving each other dildos, and the one who gets the largest one gets to have a cake full of sex juice. Anyway, last question. It's obviously a given that Spader has a large collection of perverse undergarments from which he selects each day to wear.
Okay.
What do you think are his favourites out of his vast array of options?
He's probably got to have a pair of 80s boxer shorts with sunglasses on them, right?
Oh, right. Yes, okay.
So I think it was probably one of those. But I would think the answer is obvious, right? Every day, Spader wears the underwear of the person he slept with the night before.
Right, exactly.
That's the underwear he wears every day.
What about the underwear he wore in Jack's back, which was particularly crotch-hugging?
Or what about the underwear he wore in New Kids?
Or in New Kids?
These are in the museum, man. He doesn't wear those again. Those are pinned to the wall.
Okay, so he just wears...
He will stroke their gussets
when
he walks past.
He wears the
In
underwear...
fact, anybody that visits the museum has to stroke the gusset of those underwear. He goes, feel it. They go, no, I'm all right, Joe. No, feel it. And he makes them feel the gusset.
James Spader, he makes them feel the gusset, and that is the way you end Sleazy Spader Springtime. So this has been a pleasure.
Thanks again for having me on.
And a thrill. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't know what we're going to do next time. That's the exciting thing. The end.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of another Sleazy Spader Springtime, and we've called this second year the Sleazening. We don't need to explain our reasoning, and you don't need to understand our reasoning. This time around the films were all pretty dull, I have to admit, and they were very light on the side of the sleaze. They had their moments, oh, and boy, they had their madness. But in the end we learned that any Spader should bring gladness, because any Spader is good Spader, and most of Spader is sleazy. Yes, any Spader is good Spader, and if his sleaze-a-torium makes you queasy, just remember he lives the sleazy life, so we don't have to. Yes, he sleazes for our sins and leaves us free to do whatever we want to. But at least every film this year has yielded an interesting discussion about the kinds of things he's kept for his own sleazy ways. And we've filled your head and used your imagination to think about the sexy dungeon in which James Spader plays. And we've learned any Spader is good Spader, and most of Spader is sleazy. Yes, any Spader is good Spader, and if his sleaz-a-torium makes you queasy, just remember he lives the sleazy life so that we don't have to. Yes, he sleazes for our sins and leaves us free to do whatever we want to. Oh, James Spader, James Sleazy Spader. James Spader. James Sleazy Spader. See you next spring, everybody.